You got it. You know it. It's one of my favorite days of the week. It's Saturday. It's Talking with Taylor, brought to you by those good people, the Hockey News, Sports Illustrated, Fired Up Network, Game On Magazine. We've got so many great sponsors. And you know what, Scott? You can see us on Facebook Live, where you see us now. You can catch us on YouTube. How about that Instagram stuff, Twitter? And now listen to this one. Watch us coming out to TikTok. We're going to be doing a lot of TikTok as of next week. We've got a new social convener, but social media guru. And remember the social convener was at Windsor Park Legion, Gooch. And we have some fun there. Hey, we're coming out to TikTok. And I'll tell you what, Scotty, you and I are going to do some TikToking.
That isn't going to happen. Not in my lifetime.
You can dance, kid. Hey, listen, we're going to get right into it. First and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about Scheifele. Wheeler still out. We're going to talk a little bit Winnipeg Jets because you're the expert. That's a little bit concerning. Are we concerned
that I'm
with
the expert?
Our friend? You are the expert. What about Ehlers? He hasn't registered a point, but Nikolai, he is unbelievable. What he can do he's like the old Kent Nilsson, Magic Man. What he can do with the puck, high speeds, his curves, tight turns, everything. Talk to us about those 3 points. Wheeler's out, Scheifele's out for tonight, and then Ehlers has yet to give us a point.
Number one, Scheifele and Wheeler. Without Wheeler and Scheifele, the Jets played their best game of the year on Thursday night. I wonder what that says.
Trade them.
Well, no, I don't think it says that, but it certainly says something. And number two, Ehlers. Ehlers should be on a line with Scheifele and Cole Perfetti, but Scheifele's out and Cole Perfetti got sent back to Manitoba Moose. So now you've got a situation where you've got Nikolai Ehlers, who is a thoroughbred, playing on lines, and I say lines because he's never on one, it seems.
No, you're right.
He's on lines with plow horses. Guys you have to have on your team, guys you need to pound and whack and hit and get the puck out and do all those things, but not the kind of guys who create plays and make goals. So Nikolai Ehlers has to do everything by himself. And if you watch it, he's out there trying to do everything by himself. He is the best player on the Winnipeg Jets offensively, game in and game out, and yet he doesn't have a point yet in the first 4 games of the season. It's stunning to me.
I know it's stunning, but also...
But when you don't play with guys who are goal scorers,
you don't get the chances.
Score. Yeah, that's right.
Chances don't come to you. Hey, listen, obviously...
Let's say 2 things, though, quickly.
Okay, absolutely.
Dubois has been very good.
That was what I was saying next.
Very, very good. And number 2, Connor Hellebuck couldn't stop a basketball in the first 3 games, and then in game 4, he looked like the Vezina Trophy winner. So,
do you know what?
Goalies just have me spooked. I don't know what they're thinking.
Do you know what, Scott? I was passing through Winnipeg the other day, and there was Connor Buck trying to stop a bus. He had his hand up.
Yeah.
Bus went through his leg.
Right through his leg.
Hey,
that's the way he looked like in the first 3 games. His goals against was .466, and his save percentage was .835. Like, there are junior goalies that are better than that. And then all of a sudden he comes back into Winnipeg on Thursday night, and they couldn't score against him and got lots of chances, outshot the Jets,
no question.
And at times played much better.
Hey, Toronto had a kid named Alex Bishop up from the U of T. Maybe you should look at somebody at University of Manitoba if you're struggling. Hey, you talked about Kyle Connor, or you didn't. You should have. I thought that's where you were going after talking about Ehlers. You went to Connor Hellebuck. But what about Kyle Connor? Tied in goals with 5 in the National Hockey League right now, and tied for 6th in the league with 7 points. I've always liked him. I know you've talked very highly of him, but when he's needed, when Wheeler and of course Scheifele's out, he's really stepped it up too. Yes, Dubois has, but I think this offense is going as Kyle Connor's going.
Kyle Connor's the best offensive player on the team next to Nick Ehlers. Kyle Connors plays with better players, and Kyle Connors is rewarded for it. Kyle Connor. The interesting thing about Connor, and we had this discussion this week here in Winnipeg, is that TV announcers will not say the name Connor. They refuse to say it. They say Kyle Connor, all one word. He's never like Ehlers is Ehlers, and Scheifele is Scheifele, and Wheeler is Wheeler, but Connor is Kyle Connor.
Well, because they're concerned.
I guess they're afraid they might forget his first name.
No, they may think he's Cam Connor or he's Connor McDavid, right? So they just want to make sure you and we're older, don't forget, and we forget things.
True
Look at
that.
that picture behind me. Look at that. How close is that to you? Like that's
Well, not that close.
well, yeah,
Not
because we've
that
done it
close
up
at
top.
all.
All right, Val painted that in. Hey, listen, Winnipeg has
Thanks,
scored
Val.
five.
I appreciate it from
Yeah,
Val.
making you look good. Winnipeg has scored 5 goals in consecutive contests after only scoring 4 goals combined in their first 2. Are we back? Obviously, it helps when pucks are being pulled out of your net, not being pulled out of your net. It helps your offense. I really like the game. Schmidt's playing now. That pass over to, I think it was Morrissey on that slap shot. That really made me think that, wow, he's worth every weight of gold that we've invested in him. So those are the things that we're getting goals, but we're also getting goals from players like that shot from Morrissey. If we can continue on having that one-timer, wow, that power play is going to be absolutely stunning when Wheelers and Scheifele get back.
Well, this team was 31st in the league in defensive points last year. That's really says something about what Dylan and Schmidt have done in the lineup, and what Dylan and Schmidt have done to be able to play with Morrissey and Pionk. Josh Morrissey's looking like the Josh Morrissey from 2018, and that says a lot because he was a very, very good defenseman that year. It's like anybody else. You need a partner. You have to have somebody to play with. You can't be out there by yourself, and you can't be out there looking for somebody else. And now he's got a partner who can move the puck and skate it out of the zone and handle it quickly. And he's got a guy who keeps the puck in at the point. I don't think they're all of these guys that have these brand new stats, all these things about shots and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
Somebody's got to come up with a stat, and maybe they haven't. I just don't know about it. But a stat on keeping the puck in at the point in important situations. How many times do you see the puck go around the boards and really good defensemen hold it in and keep the attack going, and really marginal defensemen let it go all the way around the rink and back down into your own zone, and you got to start all over again?
Yeah.
Nate Schmidt is one of those defensemen where if the puck's coming around hard on the boards, he's strong on his stick, he keeps it in, he gets his leg on it, he kicks it, he does everything he can to keep the puck in the attacking zone. And Brendan Dillon's the same way. And that's a far cry from last year when the Jets didn't have enough guys who could keep the puck in, and you spent all those time on power plays going back to get the puck. Got to go back to get the puck. And this year, at least in game 3 and 4 against Minnesota and Anaheim, the defensemen have been able to keep the puck in on the power play, and the Jets have been able to capitalize.
Hey, you know, another thing, as you're talking about that, one of the things that is my pet peeves with defensemen is when they wind up and they know a guy's going to block the shot. We saw it. I was live at the San Jose Maple Leafs game last night, and, you know, the defenseman winds up, got his head down. I think it's blocked by Cassie, I think his name is. I don't know really how to say his name. And he goes down and scores a beautiful breakaway goal. That frustrates so many forwards and then the defenseman, when the defenseman continues on doing that, they're saying, why don't you pass the back to the point? Well, because when I give it to you, you're making these stupid shots. You know the guy's coming to block. Why don't you move it off? And that's one of the things I see Schmidt does very well. He's not a big shooter, but he makes sure that he keeps the puck into a position where he can, you know, dish it off like he did with Morrissey. How is that a pet? Do you notice that a lot? I know in the National Hockey League, it's not quite as frustrating as when I played, you know, in Germany, where defensemen just wanted to wind up and crunch it. But I did see that last night in the San Jose Leafs game.
Yeah, but the better defensemen, let's go back to the better defensemen, do two things really, really well. When they're the anchor of the power play, they know it's their job to set it up. So the best defenseman, and the Jets have had Pionk and Morrissey do this, think pass first. You're going to go to your right or your left. You're going to go to the guy who's got probably a decent shot from a corner, which is either Ehlers or Connor for the Jets.
Yeah.
The second thing is, don't take that big booming slap shot anymore, because everybody's trying to block it. The times when goals seem to be scored from the point, and stats guys, make one up for this. They just kind of leaf in a little wrister from the point that's about a foot off the ice and see if somebody can tip it in.
Yeah.
Like, find a hole and see if somebody's in front of the net for you to move it in a different direction. And don't shoot it so fast that nobody can touch it. And really, so many good defensemen in the league. Brett Burns is really good at this.
I was just going to say that. Thank you. He does
Brett
that
Burns is
as
really
best
good
as anybody.
At being on the point on the power play and seeing a little hole and not winding up to lose the hole. He'll just flip it to the net because he's strong anyway, so the puck's coming in hard. He's a strong shooter anyhow.
Yeah.
But the point is he's not wasting all that time winding up so then that hole closes, as you know it will. But he sees the hole and just gets something to the net. Get it to the net, get it to the net. And boy, the defensemen who can do that, and there are a lot of them, but the defensemen who do that the best are the ones who really create a lot of goals and a lot of scoring around the front of the net.
Yeah, no question. Hey, listen,
we need more stats, Kerry. There's not enough stats in hockey.
I'm still trying to figure out the cap space thing, so don't give me any more stats. I'm still trying to
figure out what Corsi is and why it means anything.
I played with a guy named Corsi.
Yeah,
he's a pretty good player, for God's sakes. Hey, listen, let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets right now. Then I want to ask you a few questions before I let you go about some things that are going on in the NHL. But this one is interesting. Winnipeg Jets start the season with 10 consecutive games against teams in the Western Conference, including 4 from the Central Division. We know that looking in March, that we could look back at some of these games, that Minnesota Wild game where we gave a gift to the Wild as far as I'm concerned. We could be looking back in March and saying, God, we missed that one. God, we missed that one. And tonight they go up against Nashville, who seems to be sputtering. They're not a very good team. But if you lose to teams like that, you could be looking back saying, God, we missed the playoffs by 2 points. It was that game where we really needed it in Nashville here in October. Talk to us about the start.
Well, it's a big game at home for the Jets because it's an interdivisional game. You've got to win those. They should have beaten the Wild. That was a sad thing to watch. They had a 5-3 lead and blew it with 2 power plays down the stretch, or a power play and an empty net, an extra attacker for the goaltender. They missed an empty net goal because Scheifele pulled Connor offside. Connor was just a wisp offside. It's because Scheifele pulled the puck back at the blue line. Don't do that. Oh, my goodness. Laurie Boschman, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. I love Laurie Boschman when he was the captain of the Jets, when he was assistant captain with the Jets. He was a great, great guy, but he had this habit of getting to the blue line on a rush and trying to make a move, trying to do something quickly at the blue line. And I think Doug Smale's hamstrings pulled 4 or 5 times because he's trying to stay onside and you're making a move at the blue line. Get the puck in and then see what happens. And that's what happened to that 6th goal. The Jets would have won the game with. You score that 6th goal, you win the game in regulation.
It's over.
So then they go into overtime, and your goalie isn't as good as your goalie's been all in his career. He's just still having trouble. Lets in his 6th goal of the night, and you lose an OT. I don't know what goalie's thinking, and I've been talking to 2 or 3 goalies this week, and they just say, well, it just happens. It's just the way things go with goaltenders. One day you're the worst player in the league, and the next day you're the best, and the next day you're the worst, and the next day you're the best. The Jets should have won 2 of their first 3 games. Yes. They should have won in Anaheim.
Well, with Hellerbuck.
They completely dominated the game in Anaheim, gave up 4 weak goals, only scored 1 on 38 shots, 40 shots. They were just snake bit that night, so they lost that one. San Jose was better at home than the Jets were in Game 2. San Jose was a better team. And then in Game 3, they should have just destroyed Minnesota and lost 6-5 in overtime. So, yeah, you talk about things you'll think about come March if you're in a race for that last playoff spot. And there's 4 points or 3 points you'll be thinking about.
Especially in your division, of course. That hurts you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I want to change gears here and go into the National Hockey League. Breaking news just coming out of Pittsburgh. Defenseman Chris Letang is in COVID protocol, will not play tonight against the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs coming off a deserved win by the San Jose Sharks. Maple Leafs just didn't look like, and Hutchinson, my goodness, I love this guy. I'm as you know, in Winnipeg, I just want the guy to have some success. He didn't look sharp last night. The Maple Leafs didn't play well in front of him, but the fact is that COVID is playing its nasty hand again, obviously with Scheifele and Wheeler out, and now Letang. And with the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're already missing 2 of their big gunners. Of course, Crosby, there seems to be no date for his return, and Malkin could be longer than we think. So do you think 2021-22 season will still have this hangover from COVID?
Of course, COVID's not going away. It was a 3-year event horizon if you listen to any of the experts. So it starts in November of 2019. It's going to go through 2020, 2021, and 2022. I don't think there's any thought that it's going to be over until maybe 23 or 24.
Oh my gosh.
It's a worldwide pandemic, and now, as you know, we're getting the variants. However, having said that, the vaccines have made a gigantic difference because
Yes.
both Wheeler and Scheifele are generally asymptomatic, and they're not even sure Wheeler has it. Wheeler just, I think, got back to Minnesota, met with family and friends, and got into a situation perhaps where the league is worried about who he saw.
Right.
I don't think he's terribly ill. I just think that he went into a situation that the league wants to make sure that everything's fine. Scheifele has asymptomatic COVID. He's not sick. As soon as he gets 2 negative tests, he'll be back. But what's happened with these vaccines is the players aren't getting sick anymore. Like Hellebuck didn't have the vaccine, and in August got, by his own admission, said it was very scary. He got very sick, and it was weeks after until he regained kind of his balance and everything else. And boy, it looked like in the first few games of the season where he didn't have his balance.
He had it. Yeah, you're right.
He was falling forward, and he'd never done that before. So the one thing about the vaccines that's made the difference is that players are getting COVID. It's asymptomatic. They're not getting terribly ill. If they get a little bit sick, it's like a cold, and then they get 2 negative tests and they're back. It's not terrible like it was before when you could get it and die. These athletes that are vaccinated, it's not going to happen to them that way unless they've got some comorbidities that they don't even know about. So you're going to play the season. The season's going to be played out. Hockey's going to be played with fans, and nothing's going to change. It's just that from time to time, COVID's going to be the new injury. It's going to be the new hamstring. There are going to be players who are going to be out of the lineup for a game, 2 games, 3 games, because they've got to get through the COVID protocol, and that's just going to be a fact of life. But I don't think it's going to change anything. As long as you're double vaxxed and are prepared to wear a mask, you can go to the games, you can play the games. Junior hockey in Manitoba is never going to shut down again for this anyway. Somebody could burn down an arena. That could happen. But the reality is that because of COVID, we're not in a situation where hockey is going to shut down again. People are just basically, here's the deal. If you're double vaxxed and are prepared to wear a mask, or you're asked to wear a mask, and if you show your vaccination card in our province, you can do anything you did before COVID in 2019, 2018. You can do anything you want to. I say to those people who aren't vaccinated, get vaccinated for one reason: freedom. I can do whatever I want now in Canada. I can fly with my card. And November 1st, November 8th, I guess, I can start going back to the United States. I can see my daughter in Florida. I can do all those things without having to get a test. I'm back to normal. My life is normal. And the players have learned that too. You're going to miss a couple of games because of COVID. That's reality. It's the new injury of the 2021, 22
or a flu. It's just like having the flu.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, I want to go to, obviously, I went to the Leafs game last night. Really well, a great crowd, entertaining. It seemed like there's so much more, as you know, in Toronto. It's a little bit more corporate. I found the crowd a little more exciting and exuberant because they could be there. Everybody seemed to be following the protocols. When you were eating a hot dog or drinking a beer, they had their mask down. As soon as they took it off, the mask came up. I thought very well controlled. So compliments and kudos to the fans, because that's really important to protect us, even though we do have double vax. So that's enough about the COVID situation. I want to get into Gretzky's comment last night. I love McWow. I think McWow is the greatest invention since the Big Mac. So McWow 97. I say that because I saw the jersey the other night on TV where the guy had Mick and then wow in exclamation marks with 97. The kid that goal for his 200th goal was an absolute goal scorer's goal with, the tight turn at the blue line coming, the whole spinorama. Gretzky says this: he doesn't believe his Oiler power play in his day even comes close to the McWow-Draisaitl power play. Your thoughts on that? That's a pretty big statement, because you've seen, a lot of people may have not seen the power play with Jari Kurri and the likes with Gretzky. It was pretty dominant, man.
Let me tell you the difference. Let me tell you exactly what was spoken right there. Wayne Gretzky is one of the most modest people you will ever meet. He is really a nice guy. He's a legitimate, nice person. And he would never say anything bad about anybody unless they did something really awful to him. So he's going to say really nice things about McDavid and Draisaitl because I think he respects them as hockey players. I think he would have loved to have had the chance to play with them. And I really believe that he does believe that Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL right now. To come out and say that that's a better power play than the power play of Gretzky, Messier, Curry, Anderson, Coffey, my goodness gracious. I'm sorry. I can't go there after having seen both. There's Draisaitl and McDavid and Nugent Hopkins, and you got 3. They had 5, and a second group that would come over the bench and give them 10. And here's the other thing. The Winnipeg Jets took the Edmonton Oilers out in 4 straight games last year in the playoffs. The Winnipeg Jets never did that to Gretzky. As a matter of fact, the Winnipeg Jets never did that in 7 games to Gretzky. They didn't beat Edmonton because Edmonton's power play scored just about every time it had a power play. And the worst thing you could do in Winnipeg is yell Gretzky sucks. Because as soon as you yelled Gretzky sucks, and the crowd used to do that, it was 7-3 Edmonton. And Gretzky had 6.
Let
the sleeping dog lie. I mean,
listen, but there was
one team Wayne Gretzky's a very nice person who said very nice things, but I'm sorry, they're not in the same league as Gretzky's power play.
There's only one team that actually shut him down, and it was that learning process, the New York Islanders.
Yes, year one.
That was the. And as soon as, and I always remember this, a lot of young kids won't remember this. If you've read his book, which I haven't, I listened to it on Audible, and I actually heard it from him himself because I had a chance to ask him a couple questions in Australia when I was with him. The fact that, how did you guys become so good? How did they become? Not only did they have great players, and it's a quote, it's a very famous statement that he makes. We didn't learn how to win until we learned how to lose. When they walked by the Islanders, remember the old Butch Goring? You know, those guys were all taped up with gaffer tape and bags all over them, and they win the Stanley Cup, and they weren't out partying and jumping around. They were actually taking care of all the blocked shots and broken toes. And so that's really important to understand, that is so true. Teams do have to learn how to lose to win, and I'm certainly hoping that happens with our Winnipeg Jets. John has come on. Thanks, John. Jordan is not with me today. He's not producing our shows, talking with Taylor, because he was in net this morning with my buddies. I went and watched him. He's a pretty good goaltender. I'll tell you what, if the Jets ever need a backup, he can maybe step in there. Here's his point. Hyman, 3rd in the league in goals, increased depth. He looked really good last night. And then he says, how good is Hyman? Asked the Leafs today. He's really stepped in. Some people questioned it, the move, but I'll tell you what, he looks really good. And you know what? Even if he's not always playing with Draisaitl and McDavid, listen, he's on a team that's got, Puljujarvi. I love that guy. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. He's got so many tools. You already mentioned Hopkins. Your thoughts on Hyman right now at the beginning of the year? Yes, he's scoring goals, but he does a lot more. He's just one of those gritty, working type of players with 5 goals.
Let's go back to the show we did sometime in the summer talking about the fact that Hyman had left the Leafs and joined Edmonton. And I think the exact words were, we're going to find out how important this guy was. We are going to find out how important he would have been to the Leafs and the Leafs' success and making them a good hockey team. Zach Hyman was the catalyst on the power play and on the big line and on the goals being scored. And whenever I watched him play in Toronto, he was one of the best players. So there's no doubt in my mind that he deserves what he's getting and is an outstanding hockey player and will continue to be. The Toronto Maple Leafs suffer from something that a lot of teams in the NHL are going to suffer from. They have paid a whole pile of money to their top stars. So the bottom half isn't getting very much and isn't very good. When you start paying $9 million more than once, you start to just suck out your cap and you have nobody in the middle anymore. And you have to make decisions on, am I taking Marner or Hyman? Am I taking Matthews or Hyman? What am I doing? Because you can't pay 3 or 4 or 5 guys $8 or $9 million a year. You got no money left.
Yeah.
So they had to make a decision on Hyman, and that was a cap decision. That wasn't a decision that Kyle Dubas wanted to make.
No, they didn't want to do that. Yeah, you're right.
They would have, if they had an unlimited cap in Toronto, they'd have signed him without any problem.
But you know what, Scott? I watched the game last night. Obviously, we know that Matthews has not got his scored yet. Of course, he's going after number 200. Marner has not scored yet. There's nobody mentioning this. Like nobody's saying, you know what? Hyman is one of the reasons why that power play has yet to click the way it can. So I'm just wondering if we could see. Obviously, they had to do it. They couldn't. They couldn't ante up those kind of dollars. But is there another player that over the last couple of years, maybe you could talk to a Winnipeg Jets player, maybe that they just couldn't keep and has gone on to do incredible things, and you'd say, "Wow, I wish he was still here."
Well, as it's turned out, that's not true, and I think a lot of people thought it would happen. I think defensively, people were disappointed that Myers went to Vancouver at the time, and Ben Sherratt went to Montreal. I think maybe Ben Sherratt for Winnipeg would have been that. But Winnipeg got into a real bad situation in a different way. Winnipeg had paid a pile of money to Dustin Byfuglien,
Yeah, that's right.
and
Yeah.
Dustin Byfuglien doesn't retire in June, so they can save the cap money and re-sign maybe both Myers and Sherratt and Brandon Tanev that they lost to Pittsburgh, who has gone off now to Seattle. Tanev's in Seattle.
Yeah.
They lost those three players, and Mark Chipman said to me, without any question, they would have signed Ben Sherratt had Dustin Byfuglien retired in June.
Yeah,
Well,
of
Byfuglien
course.
came to training camp, was all ready to start the season, and then said, "I don't want to play. I'm done. I'm retiring."
Thanks, bud.
And so they
Thanks,
were
Buffy.
stuck with this. They were stuck with this contract, and they'd already lost their players. And
You got to be careful, Scott. You got to be careful. It was my mom's favorite player. She loved Buffy.
Look, there was nothing. Dustin Byfuglien was a great player, but what he did at the end was a
Yeah, it
horrible
was-
thing to do to a team.
and it handcuffed the team, no question. And he had,
Well, yeah. And so Ben Sherratt would still be in Winnipeg today had Dustin Byfuglien retired in June as opposed to October.
and I'm not disliking the defense we have as of today.
No, it's things
Hey,
that
listen,
worked
I
out,
know.
but last year it was tough.
Yeah.
Last year that
Yeah,
defense
true.
was held together with binder twine
Okay.
and got them to the Canadian
But I-
Division Championship. What was
but
that
I
called?
always
North
say-
Division?
Yeah, exactly. But I always say this. If I played in the National Hockey League, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking with one of my all-time favorites, Scott, talking with Taylor. I would probably still be, a superstar golfer, getting paid to celebrity events. But realistically, we don't know what ifs. So I think with the Winnipeg Jets, they had to go through that. I had to go play in Germany, and look at what it did to me. It gave me an opportunity to travel the world, meet my wife. I've had a great life. I can't complain. So you always got to think the what ifs. And the what ifs certainly helped the Winnipeg Jets because getting Dylan and Schmitz, I think, is really going to help them. Hey, listen, you're watching Scott Taylor right here on Talking with Taylor on Gooch Live, brought to you by those good people at the Hockey News, of course, Sports Illustrated, and, of course, Fired Up Network. With Game On, we're going to talk to you about that. I know a new magazine's coming out. Talk to us about what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, new one's coming out in November. My boy Carter Brooks has a big, long interview with Brendan Dillon, kind of the Brendan Dillon story. He'll be our cover man for the November issue. We've got a piece on stop concussions coming up about the new rink in Australia. What else do we have? Kenny Campbell, the old Hockey News writer, is doing a piece for me on either Adam Brooks or the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't think he's decided yet. We have, of course, every story there is to write about the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League, the Capital Region Junior Hockey League, the Keystone Junior Hockey League, the Manitoba Women's Junior Hockey League, all of the AAA players. It's going to be a full house, and the huge number of Manitoba hockey players who are ranked in the National Hockey League's players to watch list for the 2022 draft. It's the largest number in history right now.
We're excited. Get the Game On magazine, and you can get a chance to get a copy of that. Okay, as I leave you go, I wanted to ask you this one because there's some old guys in the league that are doing very well, and the one that's really unbelievable is Kopitar from the Los Angeles Kings. Drew Doughty also started out really well. He hurt his knee last night. We don't know what the extent is, but Kopitar, he looks like a young kid out there. Looks like he's enjoying it. And one of the things that I heard, I think it was Kipper talking about it, that Deneau, they picked Deneau up from Montreal, and he's playing with Kopitar. He's allowing Kopitar to be more offensive. Hey, don't worry about the defensive zone. Deneau is going to help you out there, and it looks like he's not only having fun, but being very productive. We've all said that this is a young man's league, but I'll tell you what, Kopitar is making it look like the veterans can still dance out there.
I love Anze Kopitar, and I hope he has a great season. Talk to me again in March. It's a long year.
Okay,
It's a
I
long,
know,
long year.
but you gotta give the kid a shot.
Hey,
Shout out.
he's always been a great player. He's been the
Yeah,
star of the LA Kings, one of the most dangerous players in the NHL, and more people would
yeah,
know about him if he wasn't in LA.
true.
But the reality is that age will catch up to you. And if he's still playing like this in February and March, I'm a believer.
Okay, I'm a believer already. I think he will be, and let's see where they take it. All right, Scotty Taylor, talking with Taylor. Thank you for being with us. Look forward to talking next week. I'll make sure I get you that stop. What a great
Yes,
story! Like it is a
yes,
great story. What's going on in Australia? I'm actually building a rink. Well,
I
not
know.
just me. I've got great people helping me do this. I do some crazy things, but we're actually right now we're cutting the pipes. We're doing it virtually. I'm helping out, but with my Jeff Armorall here, of course, and of course John Burley from Everything Ice. We're working with a group that's really not ice experts over there because of all the fun, and you'll read it in your story. So I'm not going to give you all the details. It's actually made for movie. And I think Danny DeVito's got to play me in this one because it's all over the map. Like
Joe
I
Pesci.
feel like throw mama from the tree. Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Exactly. All right, Scotty. See you next week, kid.
Hi, Kerry.
Go
See you,
Jets,
man.
go. Always my favorite. I love this guy, Scott Taylor. He used to write about me probably in junior, calling me a little bit of a wingnut. Talking about wingnuts, he is one. And always a great perspective, not only the National Hockey League, but as important for our, and I'm going to say our, I'm going to convert all of you to Winnipeg Jets fans. Hey, thank you for joining us. I know Jordan will be back with me this afternoon with Paul Rosen with the Rosen Report Roundtable. Do not miss it. It will get electric. All right. Thank you. And thank you to the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated. See you later, guys.